Ricardo Menéndez March.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Greens are supporting the Telecommunications Amendment Bill, and we look forward to having a constructive conversation at the Select Committee stage and engaging with submitters on the issue. As others have canvassed, what this bill does is set up a dispute resolution scheme for high-revenue telecommunication providers and make other minor changes to the Telecommunications Act. And I think this is a worthwhile bill to support because enhancing consumer rights and improving dispute resolutions are good things that I think can build cross-party consensus. And this shows that actually, should the government choose to prioritise the legislative agenda towards the rights of consumers, we could probably be having far more constructive conversations in Select Committee stage and in the House, unlike the previous debate we held, which clearly was driven by one party and one party alone. So I think it's important here to put in the context that Chorus was initially set up to provide ultra-fast broadband. That has been quite successful and important to modernise our economy and access to information and other services. And I think it's good that this bill will also then look at the next steps in relationship to extending the right for fibre providers to access shared property to install fibre. And I think there's other conversations we need to have in relationship to the dispute resolution scheme, because in some ways that in and of itself will lead to consumers having better outcomes. One of the things that I've noted in the context of this bill has been the broader political conversation around the purpose of Chorus moving forward. And the government does, did effectively invest in Chorus when the rollout of the fibre settings were being put in place. I think the services that Choruses provide, in my view, should be a public good, and we should work towards that, because access to services like internet are actually becoming essential services, and we saw that during, for example, the pandemic. And so for those entities that help provide that very same infrastructure, we should be empowering them to broaden the services that they can provide, but ensure that they also retain in the public good. And so while it is good to see that this bill is being introduced to better support consumers and broaden the services that Chorus can provide, I think it's important also that the government and its broader political and economic agenda enhances the ability for Chorus to remain, as I mentioned earlier, within the public good. There's also other provisions in this bill, which we look forward to examining in greater detail at the Select Committee stage, which includes allowing a telecommunications development levy to be set through regulations as opposed to primary legislation, and this would be led by the minister in charge. This is, I think, something that feels practical. Often things that are set within primary legislation end up not necessarily keeping up with the times or the economic conditions, and so having provisions for these levies to be set through regulations by the minister is a useful way in which we ensure that we can adapt to the different economic outlooks and also what the industry at large looks like. And we also have in this bill the provision for the Commerce Commission to fulfil roles given to it by the constitutions of Enable, North Power Fibre, Tuatahi First Fibre with ministerial approval. All of these changes, I think, are things that make common sense, so we commend the government for bringing this bill forward. And as I said earlier, I think one of the key things that will continue this constructive conversation will be submitters' engagement with this bill. So I look forward to members of the public, people who may have an interest within those industries, to participate in the Select Committee stage. And that also within the Select Committee stage, we continue honouring the accessibility of participation by members of the public. Because I also reflect on the fact that we're receiving a lot of submissions in the Standing Orders Select Committee, and the fact that I think bills like this one are a great example where I hope we receive an above average amount of submissions from the public, because it should not always be bills that rally up a lot of outrage, rightfully in many cases, that get public engagement, and the protections for the public to engage in bills like this ones, in my view, should be protected. So we look forward to continuing to hopefully support this bill, and we commend it to the House.
Comments?
Well, I know better than to disagree with Ricardo, so yeah. He pretty much, I think he pretty much just went over the same points that Ruben just went over, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much, that was pretty much just a carbon copy. So it's like, okay, yep, good bill, yep.
Well, it's actually interesting in DeepSeek. It actually it treated as both the arguments as a combined argument.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah,
there you go. The worst sections, it combined. It treated the arguments for best. They came combined in that. It brought up different points of what it brought up on here. What did it sit there and say on here? Let's bring it up on screen. Okay, so it brought up as best arguments the shared driveway example by Chris Pink. I will just zoom that in a bit just because that does look a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that DeepSeek put those two speeches together because they were very, very similar.
Yeah, exactly. Mandatory disputes resolution. Yeah, and I mean more about the flexibility on there, and it does bring up some of the worst arguments, which will be quite interesting. Including the red tape straw man argument from Manamino Kapakingi.
Hey, but this is good. This is good that we're utilizing AI this way because AI is not a person that's voting in the next election. Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God. But it can point out fallacies and arguments, and that's one thing AI can do quite well is actually identify the illogical premises that have been put forward in an argument. It doesn't matter whether it's from a Greenie or to Party Māori or Labour or ACT or National. It's important to understand where the weaknesses are in the arguments and where the strengths are.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook.